I was shocked by the result. When I first thought about comparing the diet of ancient Greeks with modern fast food, I expected there would be differences. But I could not have imagined how vast those differences really are. It is not just about calories or taste, it is about how these two types of food change the body, the brain, and even the way people live. The ancient Greeks lived more than 2,000 years ago. They had no sugar as we know it today, no access to processed foods, and no hamburgers, fries, or soda. Their table was simple: bread made from whole grains, vegetables, fruits, fish, olive oil, some wine, and occasionally honey and nuts. Meat appeared rarely, mostly during festivals. Food was not only fuel, it was part of their culture and philosophy of moderation. Modern fast food is completely different. It was created for speed, convenience, and strong flavors. Burgers, fries, and sugary drinks do not require time or preparation. They create a quick feeling of fullness, but they come loaded with salt, sugar, unhealthy fats, and enormous amounts of calories. One fast food meal can contain more energy than an ancient Greek consumed in 2 or even 3 days. The real question is this: what happens when we compare these two worlds directly? What happens to a modern person if they eat like an ancient Greek? And what would happen if an ancient Greek was suddenly placed on a modern fast food diet? The difference is not simply that one diet looks healthy and the other looks unhealthy. The difference lies in how these foods shape the body, how they affect the brain, the immune system, the heart, energy levels, and even life expectancy. Scientists have studied the diets of ancient civilizations for years, and every time new data appears, it becomes clearer. The diet of the ancient Greeks was balanced, nutrient-rich, and in many ways superior to what most of us eat today. But we live in a different world. Food today is mass-produced. We value speed, price, and flavor intensity more than nutritional quality. In this video, I will take you through both diets in detail. We will look at what ancient Greeks actually ate, what we consume now, what these foods do inside the body, and what happens if we swap one diet for the other. We will examine how food shapes the body, influences the brain, affects long-term health, and reflects culture itself. And by the end, you may be just as surprised as I was to realize that food does not only decide how we feel today, it decides who we become. When we talk about the diet of the ancient Greeks, we are not imagining feasts of roasted meat or endless tables filled with luxury. The truth is that the daily meals of an ordinary Greek citizen were modest, simple, and surprisingly consistent. Their food reflected their environment, their economy, and their philosophy of moderation. The foundation of the Greek diet was bread. But this bread was not the soft, white, processed kind we know today. It was made from whole grains, often barley, sometimes wheat, and it was coarse, dense, and full of fiber. Bread was not only the main source of calories, but also a central part of every meal. Sometimes it was eaten plain, sometimes dipped in olive oil or softened with wine. For many Greeks, bread was survival. Olives and olive oil formed the second cornerstone of their diet. Greece's climate made olive trees abundant, and olive oil was used not only as food, but also as medicine, fuel for lamps, and even in rituals. For nutrition, olive oil provided healthy fats, essential calories, and vitamins. While today we might think of oil as something to limit, for the Greeks it was vital. Vegetables and legumes were eaten daily. Lentils, beans, chickpeas, onions, and garlic were common, affordable, and filling. Vegetables such as cabbage, cucumbers, and carrots were also staples, often boiled or eaten raw. Herbs like oregano, thyme, and dill added flavor to otherwise simple meals. These foods delivered protein, fiber, and micronutrients that balanced the heavy reliance on bread. Fish played an important role, especially in coastal regions. Fresh fish was highly valued, while dried or salted fish could be transported and stored inland. Rich in omega-3 fatty acids and protein, fish gave Greeks an advantage in maintaining heart and brain health, even if they did not know the science behind it. Seafood like shellfish and octopus also appeared, though less frequently for poorer families. Meat was rare. Cattle and sheep were expensive to raise, and meat was not part of daily life for most people. Instead, it appeared in religious festivals, sacrifices, or banquets of the wealthy. For ordinary citizens, meat was an occasional addition, not a staple. This meant that the average Greek consumed far less saturated fat than we do today. Fruit and honey were their main sources of sweetness. Grapes, figs, and apples were common, and honey was the only concentrated sweetener available. Unlike modern sugar, honey came in small amounts, used sparingly. For them, sweet food was a treat, not a daily expectation. Wine was another constant element of Greek meals, but unlike today, it was almost always diluted with water. Drinking undiluted wine was considered barbaric. This practice reduced the risk of intoxication and allowed wine to be consumed safely as a replacement for questionable water sources. And perhaps the most important element, portion size. The average Greek ate fewer calories than a modern person. Estimates suggest that their daily intake was around 1,800 to 2,200 calories. Depending on class and activity level, this is far less than what a single fast food combo meal contains today. Another key difference was philosophy. Greek thinkers often spoke of balance and moderation in life, and this extended to food. To eat in excess was seen as a flaw. Food was meant to sustain the body, not to overwhelm it. This attitude shaped not only health, but also culture. Meals were communal, measured, and integrated into daily rhythm, not rushed or consumed in isolation. If we put this together, the picture becomes clear. The diet of the ancient Greeks was based on grains, legumes, vegetables, olive oil, fish, and small amounts of fruit, wine, and occasional meat. It was low in sugar, low in processed fats, and high in natural fiber and micronutrients. It provided steady energy for physical labor and mental clarity for study, philosophy, and art. So let us pause and compare. A typical Greek meal of bread, olives, lentils, and some fish would provide perhaps 500 calories of slow-burning energy. A modern fast food burger, fries, and soda easily surpass 1,200 calories, with far less fiber and far more sugar and saturated fat. And here is the shocking conclusion of this section. In one sitting at a fast food restaurant, a modern person can consume more calories than an ancient Greek farmer or soldier ate in an entire day. Modern fast food is the complete opposite of the diet of the ancient Greeks. It is designed for speed, convenience, and taste, not for long-term health. Where the Greeks relied on grains, vegetables, and fish, fast food relies on processed ingredients, refined sugars, and industrial fats. Let's start with the basics. A typical fast food meal today includes a hamburger or a sandwich, a portion of fried potatoes, and a soft drink. Often, sauces, desserts, and additional snacks are added. On the surface, this may look like a balanced combination of protein, carbohydrates, and fats. but when we examine it closely, the picture changes. The hamburger bun is usually made from refined white flour. Unlike the dense, fiber-rich bread of the Greeks, this bread has been stripped of most nutrients. It contains little fiber, fewer vitamins, and is often enriched with sugar and additives to make it softer and sweeter. The meat patty provides protein, but also large amounts of saturated fat and sodium. In some cases, it contains preservatives and fillers that extend shelf life but reduce overall quality. French fries are another standard element. Potatoes themselves can be nutritious, but when sliced, deep fried in oil, and heavily salted, they become a concentrated source of calories with minimal nutrients. A medium portion of fries alone can reach 300 to 400 calories, most of which are from fat. The soft drink is often the most problematic component. A single large soda can contain 40 to 50 grams of sugar, more than the daily limit recommended by the World Health Organization. Unlike fruit or honey in the Greek diet, this sugar is refined, rapidly absorbed, and contributes to insulin spikes, fat storage, and long-term risk of diabetes. Altogether, a standard fast food combo meal often ranges from 1,200 to 1,500 calories. That is nearly the entire daily intake of an ancient Greek compressed into one sitting. The difference is not only in calories, but in nutrient density. These meals are high in energy, but low in essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Another critical element is salt. A fast food burger and fries can easily exceed half of the recommended daily sodium intake in one meal. High sodium contributes to hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and kidney stress. Ancient Greeks consumed salt too, but at a fraction of these levels, and balanced it with potassium from vegetables and legumes. Fats are another issue. Many fast food items still contain trans fats, which are linked to inflammation and heart disease. Even when trans fats are minimized, the oils used for frying are often low quality and repeatedly reheated, producing harmful compounds. Compared to olive oil, the foundation of Greek cooking, these fats place a much heavier burden on the body. Portion sizes are another factor that makes fast food dangerous. A modern large burger and fries combo with a drink can deliver over 2,000 calories, the equivalent of the entire daily diet of an ancient Greek adult. The difference is that the Greek diet spread calories across multiple meals with balance and moderation. Fast food compresses it all into one heavy sitting. And then comes the psychological element. Fast food is engineered for taste. Salt, sugar, fat, and texture are carefully combined to trigger reward centers in the brain. The result is that people crave it repeatedly, often eating more than they intended. Ancient Greek meals were simpler, less stimulating, and less addictive. They were about sustenance, not craving. So let's compare. The Greeks lived on vegetables, legumes, fish, bread, and olive oil. Their meals were nutrient-dense and calorie-light. Modern fast food delivers calorie-dense, nutrient-poor meals that overwhelm the body with energy while starving it of essential elements. When comparing the diet of the ancient Greeks to modern fast food, the most obvious difference is calorie intake. But the real story lies not only in how many calories were consumed, but also in the quality of those calories. The average calorie intake for an adult in ancient Greece is estimated to have been between 1,800 and 2,200 calories per day. This varied depending on social class, region, and lifestyle. farmers and soldiers who engaged in heavy physical labor consumed more. Philosophers, artisans, and city dwellers often consumed less. Still, the range remained moderate compared to modern standards. In contrast, a single fast food combo meal today often contains 1,200 to 1,500 calories. Add a dessert or an extra snack, and the number rises quickly to 2,000 calories in a single sitting. For many people, this can equal or exceed their daily energy requirements. When repeated over time, this leads to chronic overeating and weight gain. The composition of calories is where the difference becomes even more dramatic. Ancient Greeks derived most of their energy from complex carbohydrates, bread made from whole grains, legumes such as beans and lentils, and fruits. These foods provided slow-release energy, keeping blood sugar stable and fueling long periods of physical activity. They were rich in fiber, which supported digestion and prevented spikes in insulin. Fast food calories, on the other hand, are dominated by refined carbohydrates and added sugars. The white bun, fried potatoes, and sugary drinks all break down quickly into glucose, flooding the bloodstream. This causes a sharp insulin response followed by a crash in energy levels. The body stores much of this excess energy as fat, particularly around the abdomen. Protein intake also shows clear differences. Greeks obtained protein from legumes, fish, and occasionally small portions of meat. These sources provided not only protein but also essential nutrients such as omega-3 fatty acids, iron, and vitamins. The protein was balanced with fiber and micronutrients, making it more effective for overall health. Fast food protein largely comes from processed meats, high in saturated fats and often mixed with preservatives. While the absolute protein content may seem similar, the accompanying fat and sodium burden change the effect dramatically. Instead of supporting long-term health, this combination contributes to inflammation and cardiovascular stress. Fats highlight the gap even further. Olive oil was the cornerstone of Greek fat intake. It is rich in monounsaturated fats and antioxidants, which support heart health. Nuts and fish added polyunsaturated fats, further balancing the diet. Trans fats and heavily processed oils were absent. In modern fast food, fats are often from industrial oils, reheated in fryers, and saturated fats from processed meat and cheese. Even small amounts of trans fats still present in some fast food items increase health risks. Compared to olive oil, these fats push the body toward higher cholesterol, arterial damage, and systemic inflammation. Vitamins and minerals also separate the two diets. Ancient Greeks consumed a wide variety of vegetables, fruits, and legumes, which supplied vitamins A, C, E, and K, as well as minerals like magnesium, potassium, and calcium. These nutrients supported bone health, immune function, and energy metabolism. Fast food meals, by contrast, are low in micronutrients. Unless supplemented artificially, they provide little beyond calories, salt, and fat. Fiber is perhaps the clearest marker of the gap. Ancient Greeks ate large amounts of fiber through whole grains, legumes, vegetables, and fruit. This supported healthy digestion, reduced cholesterol, and stabilized blood sugar. Fast food, stripped of fiber, delivers calories without the regulating effect, leading to faster hunger and overconsumption. Let's put the comparison into perspective. A Greek meal of bread, lentils, olives, and fish might contain 500 to 600 calories. Balanced across protein, healthy fats, and fiber, it would keep energy levels steady for hours. A fast food burger, fries, and soda may contain twice the calories with far less fiber and nutrients, causing a short burst of energy followed by fatigue. The balance between calories and nutrients is what determines long-term health. Ancient Greeks lived with fewer calories but more nutrition per bite. Modern fast food gives more calories but emptier nutrition. Over time, this imbalance explained the epidemic of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease in modern societies. The conclusion of this section is clear. The Greeks ate less, but they got more out of their food. We eat more, but receive less. The human body responds very differently to the diet of the ancient Greeks compared to modern fast food. Food is not just fuel. It determines how organs function, how hormones are regulated, and how resilient the body becomes over time. Let's begin with weight and metabolism. The diet of the Greeks was moderate in calories and high in fiber. This combination made it difficult to overeat. Whole grains and legumes filled the stomach, signaling satiety, while fiber slowed digestion and maintained steady blood sugar levels. As a result, obesity was rare. Most Greeks were lean, partly due to diet and partly due to physical activity. Fast food produces the opposite effect. High-calorie meals rich in sugar and fat are absorbed quickly, creating a rapid surge in blood sugar followed by an insulin spike. This cycle promotes fat storage, particularly visceral fat around the abdomen. Over time, it leads to weight gain and metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions including high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and insulin resistance. Now let's look at the cardiovascular system. Ancient Greek diets emphasized olive oil, fish, vegetables, and legumes. These foods contain antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, and monounsaturated fats that protect arteries and reduce inflammation. Their sodium intake was lower, balanced by potassium from plant-based foods. Heart disease was uncommon. Fast food, however, delivers a heavy burden of sodium, saturated fat, and processed oils. A single fast food meal can exceed daily recommended salt intake, stressing the kidneys and increasing blood pressure. Repeated consumption leads to arterial stiffness, plaque buildup, and a significantly higher risk of heart attack and stroke. Next, the digestive system. A Greek meal with bread, legumes, and vegetables delivered 20 to 30 grams of fiber daily. This supported gut health, improved nutrient absorption, and lowered the risk of colon cancer. In contrast, fast food meals are fiber poor, creating sluggish digestion, constipation, and disruption of gut microbiota. A lack of dietary fiber is one of the clearest markers of modern diet-related disease. Moving on to hormones. Sleep and energy cycles were influenced by diet even in ancient times. Foods like legumes and whole grains provided a steady release of glucose, maintaining balanced cortisol and insulin rhythms. In contrast, fast food destabilizes these hormones. High sugar leads to cortisol spikes, while irregular meals cause insulin fluctuations. Over time, this hormonal imbalance contributes to stress, poor sleep, and even depression. The immune system also responds to diet. Ancient Greeks ate foods high in micronutrients, zinc from legumes, vitamin C from fruits, antioxidants from olive oil. These strengthened their natural defenses. Fast food lacks these protective nutrients. Instead, its high sugar and fat content suppress immune function, leaving the body more vulnerable to infections. Bone and muscle health show similar patterns. A Greek diet provided calcium from leafy greens, magnesium from nuts, and steady protein from legumes and fish. Physical labor complemented this nutrition, leading to durable bones and functional muscle. In fast food, high sodium increases calcium loss, while poor nutrient density undermines bone strength. Protein quality is also lower, leading to less efficient muscle repair. Finally, long-term effects. A diet like that of the Greeks reduces the risk of chronic disease, supports longevity, and maintains consistent energy. Modern fast food accelerates aging, increases inflammation, and contributes to lifestyle diseases. The evidence is clear. Diet determines more than how we look. It shapes the inner workings of every organ system. The ancient Greeks built their bodies on balance and moderation. Fast food builds a body that is overloaded, unstable, and vulnerable. Food does not only shape the body, it also directly affects the brain, our memory, focus, emotions, and long-term mental health. Comparing the diet of the ancient Greeks to modern fast food reveals two entirely different paths for the human mind. The ancient Greek diet supported stable brain function. Whole grains provided complex carbohydrates that delivered glucose steadily, the brain's main source of energy. Because these foods were high in fiber, glucose entered the bloodstream slowly, avoiding dramatic spikes or crashes. This kept concentration stable and reduced fatigue during long hours of work or study. Legumes and fish added essential proteins and amino acids. These were building blocks for neurotransmitters such as serotonin and dopamine, which regulate mood and motivation. Omega-3 fatty acids from fish supported the structure of brain cells, improving memory, learning ability, and protection against cognitive decline. Herbs like oregano and thyme provided antioxidants, further reducing oxidative stress in the brain. Fast food delivers a very different effect. Refined carbohydrates and sugars from buns, fries, and soda flood the bloodstream quickly, leading to rapid spikes in glucose. The brain receives too much energy at once, followed by a sudden drop. This sugar crash leads to fatigue, poor concentration, and irritability. Over time, repeated glucose spikes damage blood vessels and increase the risk of insulin resistance in the brain, a factor linked to Alzheimer's disease. Mood regulation is another critical difference. The balanced proteins and healthy fats of the Greek diet supported serotonin production, which stabilized mood and reduced anxiety. In contrast, fast food has been strongly linked to higher rates of depression. Studies show that people who consume large amounts of processed foods are up to 60% more likely to develop depressive symptoms compared to those on diets rich in vegetables, fish, and whole grains. Memory and learning also diverge. The antioxidants and omega-3s in Greek foods protected neurons and enhanced synaptic plasticity, the ability of the brain to form and strengthen connections. This is essential for learning and creativity. Ancient Greeks did not know the science, but their diet supported their intellectual achievements. Modern fast food, with its lack of essential nutrients, impairs these processes. High sugar and fat intake promote inflammation in the brain, which damages memory and slows learning. Another key point is addiction and reward systems. The Greek diet, while enjoyable, was not engineered to overstimulate the brain's reward pathways. Fast food is designed specifically to trigger dopamine release with combinations of sugar, salt, and fat. This creates cravings and dependency similar to addictive substances. Instead of eating for nourishment, people eat for stimulation, and the brain learns to expect constant rewards. Sleep and circadian rhythms are also shaped by diet. The Greek diet, with moderate protein and fiber, supported melatonin production and natural sleep cycles. Fast food disrupts these rhythms. High sugar intake late in the day interferes with melatonin, while high fat and sodium disturb sleep quality. Poor sleep then feeds back into reduced concentration, higher stress, and impaired decision making. Long-term brain health is perhaps the most dramatic difference. Diets rich in vegetables, fruits, legumes, and fish are associated with reduced risk of neurodegenerative diseases. They provide protection against dementia and maintain cognitive function into old age. Fast food diets, by contrast, accelerate cognitive decline, increase inflammation, and raise the risk of both dementia and stroke. The conclusion of this section is clear. The ancient Greek diet supported mental clarity, stable mood, and long-term brain resilience. Fast food promotes short bursts of energy, followed by crashes, dependency, and gradual cognitive decline. One of the most effective ways to understand the difference between the diet of the ancient Greeks and modern fast food is to imagine a direct experiment. What would happen if a modern person suddenly adopted the Greek diet for a month? And what would happen if an ancient Greek were forced to eat fast food every day for the same period? The outcomes are very different, and they highlight how dramatically food shapes health and performance. Scenario 1. A modern person on a Greek diet. If a person today switched to the diet of an average ancient Greek, the first noticeable change would be calorie intake. From consuming 2,500 to 3,000 calories a day, often from processed food, their daily intake would drop to around 1,800 to 2,200 calories. This alone would likely cause gradual weight loss, especially if combined with moderate activity. The macronutrient balance would also change significantly. Instead of receiving most energy from refined carbohydrates and sugar, the person would get slow digesting carbs from whole grains and legumes. Blood sugar levels would stabilize, reducing hunger spikes and cravings. Within 2 weeks, energy levels would become more consistent throughout the day. Fiber intake would rise sharply. Modern fast food diets often provide less than half of the recommended daily fiber. A Greek diet could double or even triple that amount. As a result, digestion would improve, cholesterol levels would decrease, and gut microbiota would diversify, strengthening the immune system. Healthy fats would replace harmful ones. Olive oil and fish would provide monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, which protect the cardiovascular system. Within a month, blood pressure could decrease, cholesterol balance could improve, and markers of inflammation could drop. Mental health would also benefit. The combination of omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and stable glucose supply would support concentration and mood. Some studies suggest that even a few weeks of improved diet can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. Scenario 2. An ancient Greek on fast food. Now imagine the opposite experiment. An ancient Greek accustomed to bread, olives, fish, vegetables, and moderate portions suddenly eats modern fast food daily. The calorie intake would almost double. From 1,800 calories, it would rise to 3,000 or more. Without modern sedentary habits, the Greek would still burn calories through physical activity, but the excess would quickly overwhelm the body. Within the first week, weight would increase, mostly from water retention caused by high sodium. Digestion would worsen due to lack of fiber, leading to constipation and discomfort. Energy levels would fluctuate sharply, with periods of hyperactivity followed by fatigue. After 2 to 3 weeks, more serious effects would appear. Elevated sodium and saturated fat would strain the cardiovascular system. Blood pressure would rise and cholesterol levels would shift toward unhealthy ranges. For a person unaccustomed to such food, these changes would feel sudden and dramatic. Mental effects would also be clear. Instead of steady concentration, the Greek would experience sugar highs and crashes. Mood swings, irritability, and difficulty focusing would become common. The reward system of the brain, overstimulated by sugar and fat, would push cravings for more of the same food. Lessons from both scenarios. When both scenarios are compared, the conclusion is striking. A modern person moving to a Greek diet would likely lose weight, feel more energetic, and reduce long-term health risks. An ancient Greek forced to eat fast food would quickly suffer from weight gain, poor digestion, cardiovascular stress, and reduced mental clarity. This thought experiment highlights a deeper truth. The human body is designed to thrive on natural, balanced foods. When exposed to processed, calorie-dense meals, it reacts with stress, imbalance, and disease. Food is more than nutrition. It is also culture, habit, and identity. The way ancient Greeks approached meals was fundamentally different from how modern societies approach fast food. This difference does not just influence health, but also the rhythm of life and the meaning people attach to eating. The role of food in ancient Greek culture. For the Greeks, eating was a social act. Meals were often shared with family or friends. The concept of the symposium, a gathering where people ate, drank diluted wine, and discussed philosophy or politics, showed that food was tied to dialogue and community. Even simple meals, such as bread, olives, and lentils, were eaten slowly, in company, and as part of a daily rhythm. Food was also connected to religion and ritual. Meat, for example, was consumed mostly during sacrifices to the gods. This gave it symbolic meaning beyond taste. Honey, fruits, and wine were offered in ceremonies, linking food with gratitude and tradition. Moderation was not just practical, it was a value embedded in philosophy and reinforced through daily practices. The Greek idea of balance or sophrosine extended to food. Overeating was considered undisciplined. Meals were meant to sustain the body and support intellectual and physical activity. Eating was integrated into life, not separated from it. The role of food in modern fast food culture. Fast food culture has very different roots. It grew out of industrialization, urbanization, and the demand for speed. Food became less about ritual and more about convenience. Meals are often eaten alone, on the move, or while doing something else. Instead of being part of conversation and reflection, eating has become compressed into short breaks. Fast food also reshaped portion sizes and expectations. In many countries, a normal meal today is far larger than a meal from even a few generations ago. Upsizing, refills, and constant availability reinforce the idea that food should be abundant, cheap, and immediate. The cultural value has shifted from moderation to excess. Impact on health and society. The cultural differences influence not just the body, but also society as a whole. In Greece, eating patterns supported slower digestion, healthier bodies, and longer conversations. Meals were an opportunity to reflect, plan, and bond. In modern fast food culture, meals support speed, productivity, and constant movement, but at the expense of health and social connection. This difference also explains the rise of diet-related diseases in the modern world. When eating becomes automatic and detached from ritual, people are more likely to overconsume and less likely to notice what they are eating. Ancient Greeks were not counting calories, but their culture of moderation and shared meals naturally regulated intake. Food as identity. Another contrast lies in how food expressed identity. For the Greeks, food represented their connection to land and sea. Olive oil, bread, and fish reflected their environment. Food was seasonal and local, reinforcing their link to nature. Modern fast food is the opposite. It is standardized, global, and detached from location. A hamburger tastes the same in New York, London, or Tokyo. This uniformity removes cultural identity from food. Instead of reflecting a place, fast food reflects an industry. Lessons from the comparison. Comparing these two food cultures shows that the meaning of eating has shifted. For the Greeks, food supported health, community, and philosophy. For us, food often undermines health, isolates individuals, and reflects speed rather than reflection. The result is visible. Rates of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease are directly linked to how quickly and mindlessly people eat. At the same time, ancient societies that valued moderation and local food experienced fewer of these problems, despite lacking modern medicine. The conclusion of this section is straightforward. Culture shapes health as much as nutrients do. A diet of natural foods combined with a philosophy of moderation created resilience. A diet of processed foods combined with a culture of speed creates vulnerability. Looking at the diet and food culture of the ancient Greeks compared to modern fast food, the question becomes practical. What lessons can we take from them today? We cannot live exactly as they did. Our world is different, our environment is different, and our daily routines are shaped by technology and urban life. But the principles of their diet can still guide us toward healthier choices. One of the first lessons is the role of plant-based foods. The Greek diet was centered on vegetables, legumes, fruits, and whole grains. These foods provided the majority of calories, protein, and fiber. In modern diets, plant-based foods are often secondary, replaced by processed carbohydrates and meat-heavy meals. By increasing the share of beans, lentils, chickpeas, leafy greens, and seasonal fruits, we can replicate one of the strongest foundations of their diet. The second lesson is the importance of healthy fats. Olive oil was not just a condiment in Greece, it was a daily source of energy. Modern science confirms that monounsaturated fats from olive oil protect the heart, lower cholesterol, and reduce inflammation. Replacing industrial oils and fried food with olive oil, nuts, and seeds could shift the balance of modern diets toward long-term cardiovascular health. The third lesson is moderation in meat consumption. In Greece, meat was rare and tied to special occasions. Most protein came from fish, legumes, and dairy. In modern diets, particularly in fast food, meat is central and often processed into forms high in sodium and fat. Reducing meat consumption, especially processed meat, and replacing it with fish or legumes would reduce the risk of obesity, cancer, and heart disease. Another principle is the use of natural sweeteners in small amounts. Honey and fruit satisfied the Greek appetite for sweetness. Today, refined sugar and corn syrup dominate. These deliver empty calories and fuel addiction. Cutting back on refined sugar and relying on fruit or small amounts of natural sweeteners would bring modern diets closer to a healthier balance. Portion control is another clear lesson. The Greeks ate less even when food was available. Their meals were modest in size, spread throughout the day, and eaten slowly. Modern fast food encourages large portions consumed quickly. Relearning how to eat smaller amounts, eat slowly, and stop before feeling overly full could dramatically reduce health problems related to overeating. The communal aspect of eating also carries valuable lessons. Sharing meals, talking while eating, and connecting food with family or community reduces the tendency to eat mindlessly. Modern fast food culture often isolates eating. Meals are consumed in cars, at desks, or in front of screens. Restoring the social role of meals could naturally regulate portion sizes and make food more meaningful. Seasonality and locality are further lessons. Greek diets reflected what was available in their environment. This ensured variety and freshness. Modern food systems deliver the same items year-round, often highly processed to preserve them. Returning to seasonal, local foods improves nutrition and reduces reliance on processed alternatives. The final and perhaps most important lesson is the philosophy of balance. The Greeks did not frame food as an indulgence or punishment. It was simply a part of life, meant to support activity, thought, and health. They ate to live, not lived to eat. Modern fast food reverses this logic by making food a constant source of stimulation. Learning to value food for nourishment rather than constant pleasure could transform the way modern people relate to eating. When these lessons are applied, the impact is visible. Diets that resemble the Greek model, such as the modern Mediterranean diet, consistently reduce rates of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and cognitive decline. They extend life expectancy and improve quality of life. This is not about nostalgia or copying the past. It is about recognizing that the principles the Greeks lived by are supported by modern science. We may not return to a world of stone ovens and olive groves, but we can return to meals built on vegetables, legumes, fish, olive oil, and moderation. By doing so, we align our diets with both history and evidence. The conclusion is simple. Fast food teaches speed and excess, while the Greeks teach balance and health. The choice of which lessons to apply belongs to us. After examining the diet of the ancient Greeks and comparing it to modern fast food, the contrast is clear. The two ways of eating represent different philosophies, different health outcomes, and different relationships to food. The ancient Greek diet was simple, moderate, and built on what was available locally. Whole grains, legumes, vegetables, fruits, fish, and olive oil provided balanced nutrition. Meat and sweets were consumed rarely. Portion sizes were modest, meals were often shared, and eating was connected to community, ritual, and the principle of moderation. This kind of diet delivered steady energy, supported long-term health, and reduced the risk of chronic disease. Modern fast food, by contrast, is designed for speed, taste, and convenience. It provides large amounts of calories from refined flour, sugar, processed meat, and industrial oils. It is low in fiber and micronutrients while high in salt, sugar, and unhealthy fats. It creates cycles of overeating, weight gain, and dependency. It disconnects eating from social rituals and transforms it into an isolated act. The effects on the body are measurable. The Greek diet supported lean bodies, strong cardiovascular health, good digestion, and resilience against disease. Fast food promotes obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, and digestive problems. It overwhelms the body with excess energy while depriving it of essential nutrients. The effects on the brain are just as important. Greek food stabilized mood, supported concentration, and reduced the risk of mental decline. Fast food destabilizes blood sugar, increases the risk of depression, impairs memory, and accelerates cognitive decline. The difference between the two diets is not only physical, but also mental and emotional. The cultural meaning of food has also shifted. For the Greeks, food was tied to philosophy, community, and ritual. For modern fast food, food is tied to speed, uniformity, and excess. One reinforces balance, the other reinforces overconsumption. When we imagine switching diets, the results are striking. A modern person who adopts the Greek diet would likely lose weight, gain energy, and reduce health risks within weeks. An ancient Greek forced to live on fast food would quickly gain weight, develop health problems, and lose physical stamina and mental clarity. These experiments show how quickly food can shape the human body and mind. The lessons from this comparison are practical. More plant-based foods, more fiber, more healthy fats, smaller portions, and fewer processed products lead to better health outcomes. Eating slowly, eating in company, and respecting food as nourishment instead of constant stimulation leads to healthier habits. These are principles supported by modern science and proven by history. The conclusion is unavoidable. Food is one of the strongest factors shaping human health and human society. The Greeks lived without modern medicine, yet their diet protected them from many of the problems we face today. We live with advanced healthcare, yet our diets contribute to epidemics of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. If modern societies take even part of the lessons from the Greek approach, the benefits would be enormous. Better nutrition would reduce disease, improve mental health, and extend quality of life. It does not require living like the ancients. It requires making food choices that are closer to what humans are adapted to eat. The comparison between the diet of the ancient Greeks and modern fast food is not just an exercise in history. It is a reminder that the choices we make every day about what we eat determine not only how we feel now, but how we will live in the future. One diet builds health and balance, the other builds disease and decline. The decision of which diet we move closer to is ours to make.